Oh. Ooh. Ah. I'm going to resolder a new coax and then run it through these guide pins right here. So there's actually 4 antennas. And then I'm actually also going to put some bond wires from the LEDs to like a little piece of PCB right here. And then I have this top plate with some M3 screws. And that goes on like this. This hole and this hole line up perfectly, and that will hold the board in place. So you can see the extensions, and then these 2 holes right here, these big ones, and mount like that. Okay, so it's hooked up now. This, for those who don't know, is a TP cast, and this is a Vive lighthouse. I have another one in that corner. Basically, what happened was that I measured the TP cast, the HDMI transmitter for the TP cast, and there are holes on the left, right, and top side on the side, as well as the back, and on the front grill as well. So what I did was I measured it. So basically what you have here is a hole for a 50 millimeter, yes, that's right, 50 millimeter by 10 millimeter fan. So just a regular 3-wire fan, runs on 5 volts actually, even though everything here is 12 volts. So I actually feed the 12 volts into the TPcast transmitter via the 3-in-1 cable from the Vive, and as well as the HDMI. So I actually took apart the transmitter, and then I drilled little holes for the 12 volt power out. So directly on the power jack of the transmitter, I connected some wires, and then those go into an LC filter. So I have a 470 microfarad capacitor that's connected across the 12 volt rail, and then from that, on the 12 volt part, I put a inductor. I don't really know the value, but it's just some random inductor that I know will handle the current and take off some of the ripple, and then another 1000 microfarad capacitor on the other side of that, and then it goes into it goes out this hole right here, and it will actually go inside of the Vive lighthouse. In this case, this is my B lighthouse. And then these are able to mount on the left right side, so I can pick which side I want to mount it on. Everything's just held together with M3 screws. Right here are some standoffs, so the fan ends right here, and this is about a 5 millimeter gap right here, so that the air can flow through on all sides, and then the air will either go through the tiny vent holes on the bottom or through these side channels, and then all the warm air will actually exhaust out the front of the transmitter. I don't think it really needs cooling, but it does get warm, and I noticed that one time, this only happened once, after an extended playtime where I was mostly stationary, either the transmitter or the receiver probably overheated because the screen went black for like a second or two, and then it came back. So I'd assume it's either a thermal issue with the transmitter or with the receiver. Most likely the receiver, because it does also get very warm. But both of the devices get warm, so I'm going to put a small fan. This fan is relatively quiet. I only run it at 3.3 volts. Well, here's the original power cable. It's not being used. And here is the Vive's long cable. So these are actually supposed to go to the connect box, but I flipped them around so that the straight ones are going here. And if we follow the cable, where they were supposed to originally connect to the Vive now connects here, and see how like the angle is perfect. It just goes up, and that is the link box. And then I 3D printed and I designed and 3D printed this PCI cover, so it slots in perfectly, and then you slide it in, a little bit of tape just for friction. And then now we have the power cable. My dog chewed it up a little bit, but that goes into here, into this 12 volt. That color is actually green or yellow, but that's the ground. I didn't have any black solid core, and then the red one goes to the 12 volt line. So yeah, one of them goes there, and the other 12 volt line goes to the TPcast router. I'm not going to be using the stock antennas, but if you notice, the stock antennas actually have 2 antennas per antenna. So it's actually it's a 2x2 still. So half of it is used for the 5 gigahertz section, and the other 2 antennas are used for the 2.4 gigahertz section. I have a Wi-Fi LAN card in here. I was actually going to try to replace the TPcast router by using the internal LAN card and then setting the default gateway address to 192.168.144.1, which is the TPcast router's address, but it didn't end up working. There's a Windows 10 setting it up as a hotspot doesn't let you change it, and I tried changing it using the registry editor. I changed all the values that lead to the Windows 192.168.63 or something, 64.1, which is the Windows hotspot gateway address. So I wanted to mess with that so that it would trick the TPcast software into thinking that was it, but it didn't work. I actually just I ordered on eBay some SMA micro coax cables, so I'm going to cut and strip and resolder them onto here. I'm really good at doing that, so I'm not scared of any kind of issues. Then I'm going to route the cables to the front to this 3D printed plastic thing. So I actually designed this as well to match the rest of it, but yeah, I also got extensions for this, so I'm not going to be using this magnetic stand for the Asus Wi-Fi adapter. I'm going to actually be using some right angle SMA connectors. They're going to go in, and then everything's going to go in. All the cables, the external cables, are going to go in through this 3D printed grommet, I guess you could say, with a retention thing and some zip tie mounting spots. Here, I can actually test it. It does fit perfectly into the slot. See? The antennas came in like instantly, so I'm not going to be using these dual 2-in-1 antennas, just because there are no SMA connectors. Like, there's no removable connector, and I want this to actually be movable, so it is going to be rack mount inside of my little server case. But yeah, I also want to move it around just in case I want to take VR to like a party. I want as few cables as possible, so I don't want the link box to be like hanging out. I don't want this fucking router thing for the Wi-Fi over USB over Wi-Fi. So I'm going to be using these for the TPcast. I have 4 of them. These are 5 gigahertz or 2.4 to 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi antennas, and they are set to 5 dB range, which is the same as the TPcast router ones. The ones for this LAN card are also 5 decibel antennas. I have some ballin' 9 and 12 dB antennas, but those are meant for range, not for closeness, and this is going to be within the same room, so we don't need range. Here's a cost breakdown. I put it into an Excel spreadsheet. So the GPU, I'm using a GTX 980 Ti, and I got that on Craigslist for $200, so you can see that here. Motherboard is an Asus WS Revolution, so it's a workstation board running the X58 chipset. I have 3 sticks of DDR3, 8 gigs each, so 24 gigs total, clocked at 1600. Nothing is overclocked in the system. CPU, I'm using a Intel Xeon X5680, so it's a 6-core, 12-thread at 3.3 gigahertz. And you can see the prices all down on this side. PSU, it's a 750 watt PSU. It was pulled from the same system that had the WS Revolution,
as well as an i7 920. But like, yeah, I paid $50 for the entire server, but I only used the PSU and the motherboard. I ended up changing the i7 that came with the board for the Xeon, just because more cores. I was using this as a transcoding server before it became VR machine. USB 3, I don't technically need USB 3, but it's good if I just plug in like a USB 3 hard drive. Technically the Vive is all purely USB 2, but it has hardware connections for 3.0, so I just put it in anyway. Here's the Asus Wi-Fi card. You can see all the sources for everything and their state, I guess. SSD, Craigslist find. It's a 512 gig SSD, barely used, only 20 power on cycles, so I got that for $30. Seagate 2 terabyte, brand new. I got it for free. HTC Vive Plus, the DAS and the TPcast, whole system, $350. Craigslist. I needed a USB 3 header to USB A because I'm going to be using the internal ports on the 3.0 card, so I needed an adapter. I don't want to push them to the front panel, I just need them internally so I can reroute them to the link box. The HDMI angle pack, I just need these so I can have a better routing from the GPU to the link box. USB 3 cable. This is actually from one of those Bitcoin mining X1 PCI extensions. Finding just the cable is like $7 on Amazon, but if you get one of those extenders, it's like $4. So I just kind of, the cost of the board, the PCI X16 and the 1X board, I'm just gonna reduce that from the $4 cost, so I'm gonna call it $1.50. This was an open box thermal take cooler from Fry's. This is a rack mount chassis, also found on Craigslist. 2 of them for $15, including some other stuff, so I'm gonna just call the case $5. These are the Wi-Fi antennas. Well, this is all the Wi-Fi stuff from eBay that I got recently for the TPcast. Total cost only $840. That's not including any tools though.